Okay, today we'll talk a little bit about what makes jazz swing. One thing jazz players and classical players can agree upon pretty much is the downbeat. Downbeats are kind of not too negotiable. If I play something on the first beat and third beat of a measure, pretty much a symphony orchestra or jazz player would play it the same way, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. What is open to argument is the movable downbeat. Those are the eighth notes between the beats, known as the upbeats or the offbeats. These are kind of movable because at a medium tempo, they would be played about 66% of the way through the beat, like the triplet maybe, as if it were 12/8 time, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. At a faster tempo, those guys would become a little more compressed. If we played what I just played, which is basically triplets, at a very fast tempo, it would sound kind of stiff. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of like Lawrence Welk. So basically, the eighth notes become more smooth. They become almost classical eighth notes. Maybe instead of 2/3 the way through the beat, the upbeats would be played 55% of the way through, or something like that. You smooth it out a bit. Things you have to kind of practice on that. The way to locate the perfect upbeat is to know the universal secret. And that is that if I played something on the first beat and the end of 2, like this, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, that second chord is not a certain distance after the second beat. It's in fact an anticipated third beat. In other words, if I play 1 and then count 2 and then wait as long as I could after 2, 1, 2, to play it, I might not know when to play because people get nervous and they rush things. So if you play it though as an early third beat, it's easier. So here's an exercise. Play the 2 chords on the first and third beats just to get your mind in the right space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now let's just aim for the third beat, but instead of waiting till 3, just bring the chord in an instant earlier. 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. And if you start losing that and rushing, just go back to playing 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And even at fast tempos, you can then just play pretty much a laid-back afterbeat right in there because you're not going to worry about 2 because by the time you had time to think of 2 and then start waiting, you would be too late. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, you would freeze. Just think of an early 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2. Almost as a grace note into the third beat. Let's talk a little bit about articulation now. I'll play a simple jazz idea. You notice the notes go from very loud to very soft. Take it a little faster and you barely notice the difference. It sounds more organic. In fact, the more complex it is as far as louds and softs, the more natural it sounds. How about this one? The loud notes are 10 times louder than the soft ones, but you play it up to speed. It's amazing. If you play them all the same, it's hard to do that, to start making mistakes, and it sounds like someone reading sheet music. That's maybe how a classical player would play it. So getting back to the feel now, here's straight eighth notes on this idea, the way a classical player might do it. Here's the rolling of the eighth notes, or the 6/8 feeling. 2, 3, 4. As opposed to, sounds like Mozart. You can't write this down, so don't look for it on sheet music, because this music, at least the rhythms of this music, come from Africa, which is a non-literate musical culture anyway. It's too complex to ever write down. Go buy the sheet music to Earth, Wind and Fire, or Stevie Wonder, or Elvis Presley, and that's not what they're about. You'll be reading a bunch of notes that you're not Stevie Wonder or Elvis Presley or whomever. It's all about the charisma and kind of the flexibility of the sounds. It exists on record, so try to emulate recordings. So let's talk about ghosting of the notes. Ghosting of the notes is when you don't play everything the same volume, as I just talked about a little bit ago. I'll play some chords on the beat, all the same volume. What I'll do, though, is make the first and third beats almost not there. And the second and fourth beats pretty loud. It becomes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yet it sounds very natural. If it's all loud, it just sounds like an amateur kind of a wooden kind of musician.